All right, gang, thank you all for being on. I know this was kind of last minute of a push. It's been on the calendar for 2 months, but I know we started pushing it, the last day or two here to get you on. So thank you all for being on. The goal today is to get everybody more familiar with Docusign. As some of you know, we've been working on this for 2 years. I've been part of the KW Labs group since 2018, actually July of 2018. So right at 2 years. And if you do not know this yet, on July 15th, Loop is going to be completely gone and out of our toolbox. So July 15th is the absolute break-even day for Docusign. So if you haven't already connected and used Docusign, today is the day to start doing that for sure. Please mute yourself if you keep coming on. I don't want to have to keep muting everybody. So again, July 15th is going to be the drop dead date to switch over. What I would suggest you guys do, if you have any closings on the books right now that are scheduled to close after July 15th and you haven't put them in Docusign yet, now's the time to get doing that while we have 2 weeks or so to do this. We are essentially going to wake up on July 15th and just not have access to Loop anymore. So this is not something we can wait until the 15th for. We have to start this transition now. And any new files that you're starting really need to be started inside of Docusign. Just like anything else, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to switch a cell phone, but I adventured one time into the world of Android. I lasted about 3 days and then threw it against the wall and broke it and switched back. I know a lot of you guys are having that feeling now with Docusign, and I understand. It's a new piece of technology. Some of us have been using the old stuff for 8 years when we adapted it in 2012. So it's definitely new. But what I have done is came up with 11 steps that are going to make this as easy as possible. I understand that we might do it in different ways, or some people might not like the order I do it in or whatever, but this is the absolute easiest logistical order that makes it go as easy as humanly possible for you. So what I ask is that when we talk about these 11 steps, if you want to do it your own way, that's fine. But if you want to be able to ask me questions or work with me on this, I need you to follow these 11 steps. It's really, really key, and it's going to solve 95% of the questions that I've been getting over the last year. So without further ado, let's get rolling. Step number one, actually before that, I just want you to recognize some of these steps are going to take place in Command, and some of them will take place in Docusign. So as I'm going through them, I'll say them one at a time and explain to you, and you'll see where I'm at. And at the end, I'll do a recap, and I'll go over all 11 at the very end and tell you which step is in which location so that you understand. We're going to cover everything from the absolute beginning of the transaction all the way through after closing and getting you paid. So we'll hit on all those things today. And I will have you off by 12. And those of you that need to stay or have questions, I will stay on for a bit and help you guys out with that. So step number one is create a contact, and this is done inside of Command. I know this sounds simple, but most of you are still not doing this. We're waiting until we go under contract, or we're waiting until we're rushing to get paid, and then we're trying to do this, and this is kind of a mess. So what I want you to understand is you need to be creating a contact as early as possible in the process. It'll make everything in life easier. You're going to do that in Command by clicking on the second one down, which is Contacts. And we're going to go to create a contact in the top right, add contact. Now, this doesn't need to be filled with details. The more details you put in there, the better. However, you really do not need to have everything in there for it to work. So let's say you meet somebody at an open house or at the bar or an internet lead or however you meet your clients. As soon as you meet them, I really want you to get them thrown in here as quick as you can. So let's just say I meet Betty Smith at the open house I'm doing. I put her in. If I have some of her information, fantastic. If I don't, that's fine too. But as long as we have a name, we can actually start this. So step one is inside of Command, create a contact. When we do that, we hit create on the bottom, and it will build out this person. And what we're going to do then is just find them. So once we create it, it throws them in our database. We want to find where we put them, and then we'll be actually inside the contact so we can look at that. So step one, create a contact inside of Command, complete. Step number two is going to be creating an opportunity in Command. And I really want you guys to do this inside of the contact, not in the handshakes on the left side. And the reason for that is if you connect it and you create it inside the opportunity, it instantly connects it to that contact and it will save it to that person. If you create it inside the opportunity, you have to be able to find the contact in a list, and it's not as easy. So what you'll do for step number two is you'll click on opportunities. Again, we're inside the contact card. So we'll click on opportunities, and then we'll go to create opportunity, the little teal plus sign on the right side. And when we create that, a box is going to pop up. And this is where we're going to have to start making some choices. So your market center, I know we have people from Boynton and Boca on here. Whatever market center you're in, it'll default to that. The team piece is really key. If you're on a team or you have a team, you need to select from the little drop down your team name if this is a team file. So if you are a buyer's agent on a team and you want to get your reduced cap, every single deal has to run through the team. It's not a question. It's not an option. It's a statement. Every deal runs through the team. So if you're a buyer's agent on a team, every deal should have your team name selected. And if you were the rainmaker or the owner of a team, same thing. You want to run it through all there. That's going to help you for tracking and everything to make life easier. So anybody that's on the call that's on a team, make sure you select the team.
Right, but if you're not on the team?
Well, what do you think? If you're not on a team, what do you think?
No, just me. So I didn't select, I just left it.
Correct. You would leave it blank because you're not on a team. Okay, next. Let me go back to that. Next would be opportunity type. Now there's 4 options and you have to make sure you do this correctly. Listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. So if you list a new rental property, that does not go under listing. Listing is for a sale. If you're listing a rental property, you have to make sure it goes in landlord. Whichever one of these that you select dictates which documents are required for compliance and which documents are going to be put into a later step. So make sure you get this right. If you're working a tenant, a landlord listing, buyer, or a sales listing, make sure you select the right one. For the class today, I'm just going to stick with listing. So this is if I'm selling a listing. The owner is going to default to your name, so that's going to be easy. The client option with the red star, if you created this inside of the contact like we're talking about, you're going to see the client's name there. If you do not, you're going to have to go through the list and find them, and that's where it starts becoming a pain. So make sure you create it inside the contact. Co-seller is if you have a second contact. So if it was husband and wife, Betty Smith and Steve Smith, and I wanted to put Steve Smith on here and I already have a contact for that person, I can put them in there. If not, you can add it later. So don't really worry about that. The key thing is that we have an initial contact in there and correct. Next is the opportunity name. So the default is it puts the last name of the contact and what style opportunity it is. What I would like you to do is also, if you know the address, please put that in there. If it's a buyer and you don't, and you want to put TBD, you can do that. But if you have a listing and you know you're listing 123 Main Street, put it in there. It makes it much easier for compliance and for support and for the MCAs and even yourself to be able to find this stuff. So make sure you tag that 3 ways. It'll make life much easier down the line for you. Custom tags, you don't have to worry about, not really relevant to what we're doing today, so don't worry about that. Estimated closing date is exactly what it sounds like, just a guess. So if you're taking a listing today, and you know over the weekend maybe the pictures are going to get done, it's going to go on the market Monday, and then we figure it's about 45 days, to be able to get the file closed. Just take a guess, and if we're listing this thing, whatever, on the 26th, guess when you think it might close. So let's just say end of July. Estimated listing price, whatever you're going to go over there and put it on the market at, put in here. It's okay if it's wrong. So if you think you're going to put it up at 300 and you get there and they want it at 325, we can change that. It's okay, but just do your best. Commission rate is a spot that we start kind of losing some people sometimes. So the commission rate is not the total commission, and I need you to understand that it's not the total commission. It's your side of it. So if you're on a listing opportunity, what are you going to get for the listing side of it? So if you took the listing at 6%, your side of the listing is going to be 3%. So we're going to mark that in there. If you took it at 5%, yours is going to be 2.5%. Whatever your number is, you're going to put that in there. Then comes the phase and the stage, the 2 red stars on the bottom. These are just for your records and how you find this file. The very first time you do this, all that matters is that you can find it. So cultivate is the pile inside of opportunities. That's all the way to the left. So that's kind of the easiest one to access. So I would leave it in there. And then whatever stages you have created, if you've been to any of my classes, you've created some of these. If not, you have the default ones. So whatever you have there is okay. Just put it wherever you can. I'm going to put it in lead just for the purpose of the class here. It's the easiest one for me to find. And then at the bottom, we're going to hit create opportunity. So at this point, we've successfully done 2 steps. right? So we've done step 1, which was create a contact. Step 2, which was create an opportunity from inside the contact. Once we've done that, we're going to actually click into the opportunity. And this is what's going to bring us to step 3. I have no idea what the red line is on my screen, by the way. I think somebody hacked my Zoom and painted me red. So no clue what that is. Step number 3, now that we're inside of an opportunity, you see it's for Smith, it's a listing, and it's 123 Main Street. Step number 3 is going to be going to documents and choosing the correct folder to work in. So if you see somewhat towards the middle of my screen here, you see the word documents. When you click on that, it's going to bring you to the compliance section. And this is where we're actually going to start doing documents. And this is where we're going to transition into Docusign. So when we click on documents, you're going to see on the left side 4 folder options. If you're on a seller side like I am, you're going to see the listed folder. So in that, you'll see all the compliance docs you need. So if you took a listing, you would need a listing agreement, our business disclosure, the taxes, the MLS, and then other things that are conditional or optional. So if the house was built before 78, we need lead paint. And all the optionals are addendums. So if it's a short sale or if it's a HOPA or a coastal or whatever, any of those things that you end up having to use, you would put them in there. Your second folder that you're going to see is under contract. So this is where you would work when you get the offer. The next page you see is close. So this is when you're closing and you want to get paid. And then you're going to see custom folder. So if you want to create a custom folder for documents that are not relevant to compliance, this is where you would put them. So you might put an HOA approval in there, a mortgage pre-approval letter, a list of furniture you're selling with the house, whatever is going on with that file that is not relevant to compliance, you can put in custom. So step 3 is go to documents and choose the folder that you want to work in inside the opportunity. So for us, we want to do listing documents because this is a new listing as the example. So we're going to click on listing. Now on the right side, you're going to see step 4. It says start a transaction in a black box. When you click on that, right now, you're going to see 2 options, Docusign and Dotloop. Towards the end of July, you're going to see Dotloop go away, and it's just going to take you right into Docusign. But for now, we're going to hit start a transaction and Docusign. And this is step 4. So start a transaction, choose Docusign. When we do that, it's going to open up a new window. So it leaves command open for us so we can go back, and it's going to open a new window. And in that new window, this is how we actually get into Docusign. So whatever email you created your account with, we're going to put that in there. And then it's going to ask you for your password. And you're going to put that in there. If for whatever reason you haven't done this yet, either reach out to Scott Leroy and he'll do it for you, or reach out to your MCA and we'll get you set up on that. So step 1 was create a contact. Step 2, create an opportunity from inside the contact. Step 3, go to documents and choose the folder you want to work in. Step 4 was start a transaction and choose Docusign. So that's where we're at now. Now, one thing that starts messing everybody up is when they get in Docusign, they right away want to add documents. And what I suggest is not doing that. For step 5, I want you to choose details and start there. So step 5 is details in Docusign. It's towards the top on the left side, circling it with my mouse. I'm going to hit details. And this is where you get to pre-fill everything. So this is exactly like the details section was in Dotloop, where you can pre-fill as much as you can. So you'll hit the edit button. And then you're going to get 2 kind of key sections to this. I always tell people sort of draw an imaginary line here, because the left side of it is all the details for the transaction. The right side of it is all the details for people. So if you follow my little strategy here, it's going to make the people situation and the signings much easier. If you choose not to put the people in here, you're just building yourself a mess down the line. So please try and do it this way. It's going to make life easier. We're going to fill in people first. You're going to see seller 1. Because I selected this person as a seller opportunity, it pre-fills them. So if you know your client's email or address or phone number, you're going to fill it in. Seller 2 is if it's a spouse or a partner on the property. Listing agent 1, if it's you, it's going to default you in there. Listing agent 2 is if you have a co-broker or a partner, if you're teaming up with somebody. Buyer 1, in this case, we're doing a listing agreement, so we wouldn't already know the buyer, but later down the line, if you're doing a buyer doc or an as-is or whatever, you can fill in buyer 1. Buyer 2, same thing, spouse or partner in the purchase. buyer's agent 1. So if you get details from the other side, or if it's you, and buyer's agent 2. So if you're co-oping or partnering or anything like that. If you're working on one of these crazy files that has 3 sellers or 14 buyers or whatever it is, you can add them in envelopes. But right now, everything's designed with the 2x2 kind of concept, because that's how the contracts are designed, to be 2. I know that may be a little old-fashioned, but it just is what it is. So later, if you have multiple ones, I'll show you how to add that. But that's a question that comes up a lot. If you have 3 sellers or 3 buyers or whatever, we can add that later. So for step 5, we're filling out all these details. So we just went over people, and we're also going to fill out as much as we can about the contract. So I'm not going to fill out all this just for the purpose of time. But we will fill out some of it so you can see what it does. Listing date, maybe we're going to put in there so that it fills in on the contract. The expiration, I'm just going to, pick whatever 6 months out. Listing amount, let's just say 300,000. You'll see some of the offer details. So if you're doing an as is, you can put in the contingencies, the offer date, the contract date, the closing date, all that fun stuff. So you can fill in as much as you can here. It doesn't cover absolutely everything in the contract, just like Dotloop didn't. It's most of it. You're still going to check it over. But for step 5, what we're doing now in Docusign, fill out all the details. When you get done filling out as much as you possibly can, we're just going to hit save. And that was what's going to start building our autofill. So this is going to make life a little bit easier. So we just did step 5. Step number 6 is going to be add your documents into Docusign. So if I go to Documents, I'm going to hit the Add button, and we're going to pick Docusign Forms. Now, this is a spot that's throwing a lot of people off here as well. So where we see library, I don't want you to use library. You're adding steps by using library. So instead of doing library, click the little drop down, and we're going to click the word group. And the groups are all the templates that your MCAs have spent countless hours
Hey,
building.
Ryan,
Yes.
can you just go back? I'm very, very sorry to, now we're going to add the documents because I missed it and this is really important.
Yeah, we're just going to hit add documents on the top right here in the blue box, and you have to hit Docusign Forms. Do not pick any of these other ones. We're only using Docusign Forms. If you want fillable templates, you have to use Docusign Forms. And then when we're in here, again, do not choose library, please. Only going to go with group. And when we select group, the forms that populate are the templates that the MCAs have created. So this example that I did here was Betty Smith, and we're going to sell her house. So we're going to pick listing contracts. And in there is going to be the relevant documents that you would need for a listing. So I'm going to find the right of sale listing agreement with the transaction broker, because that's the one I like to use. If you have HOPA or you need lead paint or any of that stuff, you can see it. Short sale, all those things are on here. You might need a seller's disclosure, wire fraud, whatever it is that you need for this file or that's relevant to whatever you're doing. You're going to select that document by just clicking the little check, and then we're going to hit add. And when we add that, it's going to take a second. It'll reload. And then it's going to bring in that document. So when that document comes in, we're going to click on it. And we're going to see what we pre-filled. So again, for time, I didn't pre-fill absolutely everything. So everything on here is not going to be filled in. But what will happen is most of it will be filled in. So if you look here and we scroll, you'll see seller I filled in, the broker we filled in, the dates, remember I just made up dates, so those are in there. We made up an address. So as much as you fill in will come in. Anything else that's not filled in, that's a field that is mandatory for the contract, you can just start typing. So I can fill in the cash box, maybe I'm doing seller financing, whatever it is that I'm doing. Notice you don't see any initials here or any signatures here. That's correct, so don't worry about that. If you're missing that part here, don't worry about it. But we can fill in. So we're going to fill in our commission and all the fun stuff that we have to fill in on these. Again, if you did it in details, it's going to autofill all this stuff. If you have additional terms that you're putting in, whatever it is that you want to put in, you can put in here. and you'll go through the document and just kind of preview this just to make sure it looks right. You shouldn't really have any issues here, but that's how you kind of preview. So when you do that and you're comfortable with it, we're going to hit save and close.
Ryan, may I ask a question?
Sure, quick.
Yesterday, actually, we got accepted offer and I entered contract in that loop. So how can I transfer? I have to create it again in Docusign.
That's not really relevant to what we're talking about now. We'll talk about that after. That's got to be done in a different spot. So I don't want to take 80 people off course for that. We'll stay on after and we'll talk about that.
Ryan,
Yeah.
It's Karen Lawrence. You didn't explain where you're getting the document from. Are you saving it into your hard drive? Can you email it the way you could with DocLoop? Could you just explain that, please? Where am I getting the document from?
Hit add on the top right there, and then we hit Docusign forms. That's where we're always going to get the documents from here. Guys, just write your questions down for after so that everybody doesn't have to stay on for the questions. Write your questions down and I'll stay on and help you guys if you need the questions. The other thing that comes up a lot of times here is if people want to archive or get rid of the document. So the way to do that is to click the little circle and you'll see this new little toolbar pop up and it gives you a couple of options. So you can copy it, you can move it to a different part, you can email it out, you can sign it here. Don't do the signing through here, it's a pain. You can archive here or you can unarchive. When you put a document in here, you cannot put multiple of the same document. So I cannot have 5 exclusive right of sale listing agreements in here. If you make a mistake, there is no delete. We have to keep all these things for compliance, same as DotLoop. You can never delete a document in an electronic signature platform. So if you make a mistake, we have to fix it. If you don't need the document anymore, you're welcome to archive it. But if you make a mistake, you really need to go back in here in details and in documents to fix it. Anytime there's an error that you want to work on, I want you to go back to details and documents, and it'll make life a lot easier for you moving forward with the coming steps. So step 6 we just finished, and that's add documents into Docusign, which is here. You can add as many in here as you want. So if you have a transaction that needs, 5 or 8 different things, you can do that. But this is where we're going to do that. All right, next. So now we've completed 6 steps. Number 1 was create a contact. Number 2 was create an opportunity. Number 3 was go to documents and choose the folder we're working on. Number 4 was start a transaction choosing Docusign. Number 5 was in Docusign, fill out all the details. Number 6 we just finished, which is add documents in Docusign. Now we're going to move to step number 7, which is how you actually do your signatures. And to do that, we have to create what's called an envelope. So you're going to see the 4th one here says envelopes. So we're going to click on envelopes. And then we're going to hit new. And when we do that, we're going to get a couple of different options here. So envelope name, this is what you are going to see. And what I would suggest labeling the envelopes as is what they are to you. So this one we're doing now is listing document. So I would put one that's like listing docs. Later, if we are doing an as-is contract, I might write offer or as-is. Down the line, we might do an addendum, like an inspection addendum or an appraisal addendum or a closing addendum or any one of those things. So I would add those in. But every time you create a new envelope, you want to label it what it is so it's easier to find and kind of work off later. Then we're going to actually have to add documents. So what do we want to get signed is really what you're asking yourself here. So if you hit room docs, we're going to have a list of any documents that we put in the room. So we only put in a listing agreement. So we have one choice, nice and easy. We check it and we hit add selected. And then we'll give it a second and it'll load that document up. Now, this is a key part of signatures that people this is a constant struggle and question that we're having. When we get to add recipients, this is who is going to sign. In the little drop down, we get 3 options. The only one you should be using is pre-tagged roles. And I'm stressing that, again, the only one you should be using is pre-tagged roles because this uses the pre-filled signatures and initial spots. If you do room participants and email addresses, you have to customize this yourself. It's extra steps for absolutely no reason. So when you click on pre-tagged roles, it's going to go back to that details section that we filled out first in step number 5, and it's going to just put the people in the correct spots based on who you said. So my seller one was Betty Smith, or whatever we called her, was Betty Smith. My listing agent was me. So we're going to put that in. And we'll send whoever we need to get signatures for. Betty Smith is obviously fake, and I don't have an email for her. So if I put her in, it's just going to show an error message. I'm going to show you what it looks like when I do it with myself as an agent. But just think, for a seller, you're just going to put in whoever your seller is, and they're going to have an email next to them. If they're fake, like this one is, that's not going to work. So pre-tagged roles, select whoever needs to sign anything, and then hit add selected. And when you do that, you're going to see that person, their email, and that they need to sign. This is their permissions. We're going to scroll down a little further, and you're going to see message to recipients. This is what the email will say. So just like Dotloop, where you were able to send the email out and customize it, same exact thing here. So email subject could be, hey, Betty, here are the listing docs. And then the message could be, Betty, I don't know, whatever you would say to your client. Here is the listing agreement we went over, 300K, 6-month listing, please sign ASAP. Whatever it is that you want to say to your client in there, you're going to put that in there. And then you hit the next button. And when we hit the next button, we get to preview this before it sends out, so we know what our client is going to get. So there's really no work to be done here. It's just kind of a check thing, where if you want to check. The only time you would have work in here is if you wanted to add the third seller or another signature. We can do that on the left. So on the left, you're going to see standard fields. Signature, initial, and date signed are the real easy ones to do because they're pretty standard. So if I wanted a signature or an initial because we changed something on the contract, I would click on initial, and I can just drop it wherever I need it. If I need to throw a date in there, I can do that. If I need to throw a signature, I can do that. If I need to put some text, like the personal property here, I can put it in and say, I don't know, crazy light fixture to stay or to go, you know, whatever it is that you need to put in there. All the fields that you need to add, you can do that. All right, so if we scroll down through here, we'll be able to see all the spots that we assigned. What you'll notice is they're in yellow. When you have multiple people, everyone will get a different color, so it'll be a little bit easier to see. So if you add 2 sellers and 2 buyers, someone will be yellow, someone will be pink, someone will be red, someone will be blue, all that kind of fun stuff. So good stuff there. So we're scrolling down here, making sure it looks good. Yes.
When you add those tags, you have to put it on the line, right? Sometimes I use a little higher, thinking that people need to sign underneath. But it's not. Where you put the tag is where the signature is going to be, right?
Yeah, if you see the line on here, that's where they're going to sign. So if it's a little off, honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but you want to be as close as you can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So when we get through that and we realize, okay, we're done, we can hit send. And when we hit send, our client gets the email with whatever it was that we said, and they're going to get the option to sign, just like in Dotloop, same thing. It'll say, Ryan sending you a document to sign. When they open it, it will drag them through every one of the signatures. So they don't have to look for them or try and figure out where to sign. It will bring them up all the different opportunities in all the different spots so that they can click it. So you won't have to worry about trying to figure out, you know, are they seeing it? Are they going to miss any? You know, you'll be able to actually see all of the people.
No, Ryan. I can kind of do.
Guys, we're just holding the questions till the end. I want to get through this.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to send it to them and just be able to let them sign. They'll click through and sign everything. And when they finish, they're going to get, you're going to get an email that says, here you go. You know, your client, Joe Smith or Betty Smith, whatever we called her, has signed the documents, and then you're going to be done. So step 7 that we just did right now was create an envelope inside of Docusign for signature. So that was what we just did. So right now we're through 7 steps. And at this point, we're actually done with the Docusign piece. And the rest of what we need to do goes back into Command. So when we hit Command, because we were in Docusign, that window stayed open for Command. So we can just click on Command, and it'll bring us back to what we were working on before. And step number 8 is going to be where we're at right now, which is going to be do compliance in the Documents section in Command. So we click on Documents, and this is how we're going to start our compliance journey. So when we're in the folder that we need to work on, the listed, we just did the listing agreement, we're going to see all the things that say required. And all of those need to have something in there for us to get through compliance. So what you'll do is you'll hit Add a File, and then it's going to pop up with 3 options. The only 2 you ever really use are Manual and Docusign. Manual is if you have a document on your computer. So if you have it on your desktop or saved in a folder or something, you'll use Manual. Docusign is if you're trying to get the documents that we just completed. So when I click Docusign, you're going to see it's going to auto-populate. Give it a second. And you'll see it'll auto-populate the documents that we just did. So I'm going to click on it and hit Assign. And now it's going to put this document in here in the correct spot for compliance. So it just loaded it up. You'll see it says uploaded on the left side. And you'll do that for whatever documents you have to put in. And then you're going to hit Submit to MC. When you hit Submit to Market Center, it goes to the bottom of queue for compliance. So every time that you hit this button, it brings you to the bottom of the list. So don't just go in here, do one, hit Submit, do one, hit Submit, do one, hit Submit. It's not going to you're not going to get anywhere extra by doing it that way. So just make sure you go in here, click Submit, do that. And when they're submitted to the Market Center, we want to give the compliance people a day or 2, and then they'll get it back to us. And you're going to see it come back in one of 2 ways. It's either going to be green, and it's going to say accepted with a little check mark, or it's going to be red, and it's going to say rejected with a little box and a comment. And if there's a comment or it's rejected, it'll usually say like, something like, you know, you missed whatever, a signature on this line, or you missed this, or you missed that. Whatever it is that you missed, it'll be in there so that you can go back in there and fix it, you know, and be able to kind of get back to work there. So that is the number 8 step, is do compliance in Documents in Command. So again, July 15th, we're going to be moving to the piece where that's the only spot that we're doing compliance in. So if you're not doing compliance yet in there, I want you to get in there. If you need help with that, or you're still working on it, what I would say is try it yourself the first time. And every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I do a tech help desk, 10 to 11. And if you have an issue that you're working on, you can just come on, and there's a good chance that we can help you through it in like 30 seconds to a minute. Most of you have already came on that help desk at least once, and we've been able to fix your issues. Occasionally, sometimes it's a DocuSign issue, and there's just no way to do it. And I understand that. And if that does happen, we will do everything we can to work through it or fight through it with you. But try and do that. You know, start this process now so you don't get kind of blindsided when we do get to that July 15th date. So that was step number 8, do compliance in the Documents section in Command. Step number 9 comes kind of in the next logical order. So when you get an offer. So the example that we just did, we took a listing, and now let's say we get it on the market, and a week later, great, we get an offer. So what we have to do is we have to do the next step, the offer step inside of Command. So we actually have to go to the one that says offers, and we're going to build out an offer here. So we're going to hit add new offer. You do not have to upload documents in here. This is just kind of for the office and for the seller. So we're going to hit create offer. We can call it whatever you want, initial offer or cash offer or buyer one offer, whatever. You'll see version name, which is whatever we just put in. Offer date, it always defaults to today. Closing date, you're going to select. So if they said they want to close on July 31st, we'll do that. And then we're going to move to parties. So these are the parties of the transaction. Now we know we had Betty Smith, the seller, whoever the buyer is, let's just say it's Carly. And the buyer's agent name is Mary, whatever. And I'm the listing agent because I submitted that. So you're going to put in as much information as you possibly can here. And then we're going to go to terms. And these are the terms of the contract. So if you notice the sales price is blank, we're going to build that out. So if they said they're going to put $25,000 down, and then they're going to finance, whatever, $200,000 or $250,000. You'll see the numbers go up and it builds that price. So 25,000 down, 225 finance brings us to a total of 250. What is their percent down or their earnest money, their deposit? Let's just say they're going 5%. Option fee is pretty rare here. You know, in other parts of the country, it's a little more popular, but we don't really do a lot of lease options, so don't worry about that. Termination option is the inspection period. So maybe that's 7 days. And then seller costs is if there's any credit. So maybe they're going to do $250 towards the home warranty and $1,000 back to the buyer to close. Whatever it is there, you can fill that in. Then we're going to go to an agent analysis. And what I like to tell people is kind of just like whatever you want to do in here. So for me, pros on that one might be, I don't know, 25K down. Cons, I don't know, slow closing, you know, whatever you think about it. And then the summary is seller should take this. And we're going to save it. So now we have one offer. Now, if we had multiple offers, the point of this is that you can show these multiple offers to the seller and let them choose. So if we had 5 other offers here, we can add a new offer and have a bunch of them and then be able to say, okay, well, the seller accepted this one. So we're going to hit accept. So this is step number 9, is doing the offer. And what you're going to see when I hit accept, you're going to see this commissions tab, which is how you get paid. That's what actually replaces green sheets. So when I hit accept, you're going to see the commissions tab light, like spin a little bit and then light up. So I hit accept and then see it spun and then it lights up. So we've completed step number 9, which was do the offers. And now we're at step 10, which is going to be commissions inside of Command. And this is how you get paid. So for those of you that have been with us forever, we've used something called green sheets forever. If you remember way back, we had the yellow sheets even, which was like the print ones. Green sheets was our digital form of getting paid. Those are no longer needed. You can do everything in commissions. And when you click on commissions, if you haven't been in here in the last couple of days, it had a huge update. And it looks almost exactly like what the green sheets do. So you have 3 different sections to be able to actually edit in here, or 2 now, to be able to edit.
Are we on step 10 now with the commission, or is this still part of you must accept it as an offer?
No, this is step 10 is commissions.
Okay, good.
Step 9 was do the offer. Step 10 is commissions, which is what we're doing right now. So for step 10 here, we click on commissions once it's unlocked. If you did not do step 9, step 10 does not open up. It doesn't even allow you to do it. That's why this order that we've been going in is kind of important, because they unlock things going down the line here. So you get 2 things that you can edit. So number 1 is edit general. If I click edit general, we're editing parts of the deal. So I know we listed it at 250, but maybe we took an offer of 245. I don't know. The commission rate, is it still 3%, or did you have to change it? So maybe, you know, you had to give a 0.25 credit. So maybe now it's 2.75. So it's going to adjust it. Your units count as 1 unit. That doesn't really change. Contract date, so whatever day we actually took the contract. So if it's today or tomorrow, we're going to put that in there. And the closing date we determined earlier, if that changed in the offer, we can change that. We're going to hit save changes, and you're going to see that one finish up. And then if we need to edit anything on the payment side, we're going to hit that here. This system is pretty smart. So it knows it's you, it knows the units, it knows the gross commission. It's going to show you your royalty and your company dollar. So if you still owe money, it's going to put it here. If you don't owe money because you're capped, it'll just say 0. Then there's the 4 standard options for deduction. So E&O, we're lucky that our market centers don't do that or take that out of our transactions. I'm in some other market centers that I work in and they do. So we're fortunate that our market center doesn't do that. Then there's 3 options for donations: KW Cares, KW Kids, and Bold. If you could give $1 to KW Kids, we'd really appreciate it. I'm an instructor for that, and it's really a fantastic course. And then on the bottom, you have your extra payment options. This is if you have a transaction fee, or you're paying a transaction coordinator, or you're paying the moving company, or you're giving a credit, or whatever. You're going to hit add item, and you get a drop down with some options. So a bonus, you know, if you got a $500 bonus from the seller for selling it in a certain period of time, you can hit bonus and put in the amount, $500. It is always split with the market center. So if you're not capped, it's always a market center split. And all these, whatever ones it is you're doing. A concession, so are you giving some kind of a credit back? A deduction, so this would be like a transaction fee or a transaction coordinator or anything like that. An inside referral means, did you get a referral from someone inside your market center? So was someone sitting at the, you know, tech desk and said they couldn't help this person, so they gave it to you and you got a referral? Outside referral means they're not in our market center. It's important that you choose the correct one here because they're paid out very differently. So inside referral if it's in the office, outside if it's not. The explanation of that is pretty self-explanatory, not too hard to do there. And then you'll see on the right side, this summary. This is what your MCA is going to get. So this summary, the MCA gets this, and then it allows her to dictate your DA, which is your disbursement authorization. which is a privilege. It is not a requirement. And the way that you get that privilege is that you have all this stuff done more than 3 days before closing. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is because it takes time to process. And number two, I will tell you from the title side, is with Performance or any title company that you're using, the documents legally have to be finalized and be correct and signed off on 3 days before closing. Now, I know some of you are going to say, oh, they do it for me in the morning all the time. Well, they're not supposed to do that. They're bending the rules by doing that. So if you want to get a DA, you need to have your compliance and all of your commissions and all your stuff done more than 3 calendar days before closing, period. There is no option around that. So if you want to get paid at the closing table, which we're one of the only companies that allows that, please make sure you follow these steps. And you'll see this summary. So total commission is whatever the gross was, 2.75, I think it was, of whatever the sales price. Pay to office, this is the total amount going to the office. So whatever you owe on royalty, which is the 6% that falls off once you hit 3,000, and whatever you owe on company dollar, which is the 20 or 30% that falls off once you pay in your cap of 20,000. And if you did any additional deductions, so if you paid $400 to a transaction coordinator, that will be plugged in there as well. And then pay to agent is the check that you're going to get. So it's going to show you your name in the check. If you partnered, so let's just say I did a deal with, I don't know, Lori, it'll say me and Lori and whatever our split is or whatever our amount is. When you hit submit, the MCA gets that, and then they can process the DA for you if everything is done correctly. And what you'll see is that will go in the closing section. So when you go to close, they'll be able to put that in there. And you are required to put a closing statement in here. I know a lot of you guys don't do this, but you need to do this. So if you have a closing on Friday morning, and then we're going to the Keys partying for 3 days, I can certainly appreciate that. However, when you return on Monday, you need to upload that closing statement. That proves that the closing happened. It shows all the numbers. It keeps us in compliance. So make sure you finish that off for step 10. And step 11 is just easy. It's close and get paid. So if you've done all these things, if you've done 1 through 10, step 11 is close the file. So show up at closing, do whatever you got to do to close, and then you get paid. If you follow all these steps in order, I know it sounds like a lot, and we went through a lot here in 50 minutes. It's not that bad. I strongly advise you to do this in order. I gave this list to Emily, and she's creating a flyer checklist kind of thing for you guys that love lists. I'm going to read through them again here one time, just kind of as a recap. And then anybody that has questions, I will stay on. I know there's 90 of you on the call, so I'm expecting there's going to be a bunch of questions. Just try to be respectful, and I'll hit you guys one at a time. I also see that there's over 40 things in the chat, so I'll go through them, but you're just going to have to bear with me a little bit on time. So step 1, inside of command, create a contact. Step number 2, inside of command, create an opportunity inside of that contact. Step number 3, inside of command, go to documents and choose the folder that you need to work in for this opportunity. So that's the listing or the under contract. Step number 4, inside of command, click start a transaction and make sure you select Docusign. Step number 5 is inside of Docusign, fill out all the details section. Step number 6, inside of Docusign, select and add all of your documents. Step number 7, inside of Docusign, create and send an envelope for signatures. Step number 8, we're back into command, do compliance in the documents section. Step number 9, in command, do the offers section. Step number 10, inside command, do the commissions section. And step number 11, close that thing and get paid. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.